Hey everyone, CWD Music Reviews here. I'm CWD, and this is going to be a music review of the new Code Orange album, Forever. This is the latest full-length album, the third full-length album of hardcore punk metalcore band Code Orange. This is actually the first album as the band Code Orange, where previously they were the band Code Orange Kids. These guys have been around for a little while now. They have, like I said, 3 albums under their belt at this point. The previous to this one I listened to, I Am King. That was a pretty good album. I definitely enjoyed that project quite a bit. It had all these really dense and particularly layered riffage going about it. A nice kind of sludgy, hard-hitting grooves and riffs about it that I definitely enjoyed a lot. My issue though was that the production wasn't complementing the experimental nuances that Code Orange as a band tend to seem to go for, especially on I Am King, where they tried to do this kind of weird, slint spoken word thing, as well as the occasional sung vocal. The guitar was just so overbearing that it really masked over all the moments of cleanness and all this other stuff that went on with that project. But still, I did definitely came out of I Am King liking that project, even if I didn't absolutely love it. And I definitely did think that Code Orange definitely have a lot of promise as a band. They definitely have a lot of potential to this kind of sound that they try to go for. In particular, they are what I can only describe as a sludgecore band. Sludgecore is pretty much what it sounds like. This really particular mixture of the dense, noisy, and outright just hulking nature of sludge metal mixed with the immediate, hard-hitting, and semi-fast-paced nature of hardcore punk or metalcore. And with this new album, Forever, they definitely are propelling the stylistic progression of the sound that they have seemed to taken a lot of interest in developing. So much so that I can definitely say that this is better than I Am King. Now, as far as if I like it or not, I definitely do like this album a lot. I definitely do think it's really good. However, like with I Am King, they still have a little ways to go before they make an album that I just absolutely love. This project's about 11 tracks in length. It's about 35 minutes long. So it's short, but not too short. There's definitely an immediateness to a lot of these tracks that make each individual track feel not as long as it lets on. Except for maybe tracks like Spy, where there's not a lot of variation to what it is the track is going for that keeps me engaged from beginning to end. But for the most part, I do like a good chunk of the tracks here, so much so that I'm not bothered by some of the tracks that are like 4 minutes or close to 4 minutes. Now, as far as production goes, they definitely have improved from the last one. It's the same producer as last time, some fella named Kurt Ballou. I love that man. I think Kurt was self-conscious of how overbearing and how just straight up dense the last production was, so now there's definitely a lot of clarity to what Forever has instilled upon the listener. Tracks like The New Reality, Ugly, and Bleeding in the Blur, they definitely have still quite a bit of punch and hard-hittingness to it, but not so much that it's like masking everything in straight-up guitar. Everything in the mix has breathing room, and I definitely enjoy that quite a bit. What's also interesting is that they seem to be incorporating a kind of industrial or glitch type vibe that was not present in I Am King. Like with the track Kill the Creator, which in the midst of these really hard-hitting and particularly visceral moments, there's like these really sudden stops of just outright dark ambient-ishness, if that's even a word I can use. Like with the track Heart Goes On, which in the midst of how this riffage is building emotionally, there's like these little glitch shots that come up in the midst of it that really adds tension to what it is Code Orange are going for. Or the track Real, which has these cacophonous and really off-kilter beats going on, along with this like brooding spoken word going on before it goes right back into the hard-hitting riffage that the album has definitely mastered at this point, or at least gotten so good at that there's no possible way you could just hate any of these riffs or feel just outright alienated by any of them. If you're someone that already is this acquainted with and this familiar with and this appreciative of the riffs that they're trying to go for. But these are not your dime a dozen hardcore punk or metalcore riffs. Like I said before, they take the nuances and the density of sludge metal and definitely create this particularly interesting fusion of this sludge style and this hardcore punk style to where it's pretty much an animal of all its own at this point. There's not many bands you can say that are taking sludge metal and hardcore punk and really bringing it to this particularly cohesive sound. Take tracks like The New Reality and the opening track, Forever. They definitely are pretty solid in their own right. They definitely are particularly impressive when it comes to taking the emotional strength of a punk album and the outright density and outright hulkiness of a sludge project. Or again, the track Kill the Creator. There's these really fascinating and particularly good start-stop riffage all over this track that it gets me every time I listen to it. Or the track The Mud, which goes for a noise vibe that is typically on some sludge metal albums, but still incorporating a punk edge as it's getting denser and denser over time. But the album itself isn't no stranger to clean vocals like with I Am King, but these cleans I like a lot more. I definitely think they're clearer. They definitely add more emotional punch. Namely the track Bleeding in the Blur, which as a single I didn't care for all that much, but in the context of the album it sounds like phenomenally better. The track itself kind of goes for a post-hardcore type vibe, maybe some grunge tendencies on this track. But I think my favorite of these, and pretty much probably my favorite track on the record, Ugly. This track is really catchy. I love the hook. Ugly is the only way I know how to burn. And this track in particular has this soft, loud, soft dynamic that is particularly prominent in the grunge era, and it doesn't sound dated at all. It definitely is particularly fleshed out so well that it sounds fresh. It sounds like it's made in the now. I definitely enjoy it quite a bit. So there's nothing really bad about any of the tracks here. I just think that there can be more done to make a lot more memorability to a good chunk of them. Because tracks like The New Reality, Spy, No One Is Untouchable, these are solid tracks in their own right, and the middle of which, The New Reality, has probably one of the most hard-hitting riffs on the entire record. It's just that I think they have more room to improve, a lot more room to improve, to make these tracks more standalone, and for this album to be undeniably great versus just almost close to great. Plus you have tracks like Hurt Goes On and Dream 2, where they pretty much do away with the sludge punk thing that they have established all throughout this album and pretty much go into a dark and particularly cacophonous and ominous vibe. Hurt Goes On being my favorite of these two, just because of how hard-hitting and just outright explosive the instrumentation gets around the tail end. And the closing track, Dream 2, is a really weird way to close the album off. It's like a slow torch song of some kind. I wasn't really sure about when I first heard it, but after more and more listens, I do like it. I just wish that it was a lot better than it was. Even with all my complaints with this album, I still enjoy it a lot. I definitely do think that this is going to be a highlight for the month of January. As well as a highlight for this niche of sludgy hardcore music that I think people need to start making a lot more. Code Orange had a moment to finally seize my interest and definitely seize me as a fan, and they pretty much succeeded. However, it's not to say that I am completely head over heels for this album. For one, it's a bit too short. I just wish there was more meat to a good chunk of the tracks here. Or maybe just a few tracks that are similar in this vein or add to a lot more variety. Because when they want to get catchy and immediate and not as hard-hitting, they definitely execute that particularly well with tracks like Bleeding in the Blur and Ugly. But simultaneously, when they do want to get hard-hitting, they definitely have a knack for it with tracks like Real, Kill the Creator, and The New Reality. If you are a fan of this type of sound, if you've been a Code Orange Kids fan or a Code Orange fan for a while now, you're definitely going to want to check this out. You'll definitely dig this a lot. If you are a fan of bands like Converge, Dillinger Escape Plan, all those other metalcore and mathcore, and hell, even maybe some sludge metal bands like High on Fire or some I Hate God or anything of that nature, yeah, definitely check this out. You'll definitely get something out of it. Maybe don't go into this thinking that you're going to get a fantastic album, but I definitely guarantee that you're going to get a lot of enjoyment out of it. This album is a plus 1.9 out of plus 3. Yeah, I did this thing quite a bit. Maybe not as much as I would have liked. I really wanted to like this album a lot more than I do. But regardless, this is definitely at least going to be an honorable mention for the month and probably an honorable mention for the year. But if you give this album a listen, what'd you think of it? Did you like this album? Did you dislike this album? What was your reasoning for that, and which I consider listening to and reviewing next? CWD Music Reviews here, signing off.